One of the problems is you want to be someone else. You have some idea usually of not being perfect enough or good enough, or even envy. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could be that person? So either you think poorly of yourself and want to be someone else, some kind of self-loathing, some kind of self-criticism, some kind of self-judgment, or some kind of worldly induced envy where you think it's better to be somebody rich and famous, somebody well-known, somebody who seems happy, but you don't really know. So this is a tremendous distraction because you're never going to be someone else. You are exactly who you are. But the distraction isn't that it leads you down all kinds of wrong roads, although it does. It causes all kinds of miseries, although it does. The problem is it distracts you from the real task, the spiritual path requirement, which isn't that you be someone else, it's that you be something else. Something, not someone. You continue to be you. You find the way to be who you really are in full acceptance and allowing it to express itself, be what it is, who it is. You allow your personality to function the way it's meant to, but you recognize that you have to be different, not be a different person. Be you as you are, but in a different way. Whether it's more loving, whether it's more gentle, whether it's more participatory, whether it's more aware, whether it's more inclusive, whether it's more open-hearted, more open-minded. Whatever it is, it's a something, not a someone. The essential you doesn't need alteration, but the practical, the way you function, the way you react, the way you respond, the way you feel, the way you, above all, interact with people, with the world, with the environment, with life in general. That's what has to change. That's what the spiritual path actually does tell you you must do. Not become someone else. Become you. Without the confusion, without the barriers to what's best in you. It isn't an add-on. It isn't you have to figure out how to love. It's you have to find the knack, find the way, find the art, find the science of how to awaken the love that's in you already. Whatever it's going to be, it's already there. It isn't something you go out and search for and then pay $29.95 and stick on yourself and now you got it. It isn't cosmetic, and it isn't an alteration. It's a cultivation. It's bringing out something that currently isn't operating and bringing it right to the front as one of the primary ways you operate. Now, of course, you can't do this if you're self-obsessed like most of us. If your primary activity, without noticing most of the day, usually all of the day, every minute of the day, is a focus, mental focus on self-concern, monitoring yourself, evaluating yourself, ceaselessly judging yourself, unrelentingly having an inner monologue commenting about yourself and everything you notice about yourself and everything that's happening, quote unquote, to you, that's not going to help either. You need the space to cultivate something else. You need the space to discover what's in you that's not related to self-concern or self-observation or self-monitoring, and certainly not self-criticism. So that's the dilemma. You think you have to change yourself, but by yourself, you're thinking who you are. And it doesn't occur to you usually that it's about what you are. What meaning? What kind of energy are you bringing into the room? What kind of intention are you harboring in your heart of hearts? What's your actual motive? What's your genuine contribution? What are you actually all about? If we asked 10 people who know you to agree to have a committee meeting and come up with a unanimous agreement about what's the right description of you, what would they say? What would they come up with? So it's very hard to come out of the conditioning, because that's what it is, of a lifetime that has made you believe very fervently that you're supposed to perfect yourself or change yourself rather than be yourself. But then that makes it all the harder to understand, to comprehend, even in a basic way. You hear the words, you understand it intellectually, but to understand that this whole trip, this whole journey, this whole spiritual endeavor is about changing the somethings in you so that those somethings are aligned with the divine, the sublime, the superior. Not your superior, but how you operate is based, and not even how you operate is superior, but how you operate is based on a superior platform, a better vision of the Supreme, a more clear understanding, a more clear, holistic knowing, organic knowing of what represents better. Because it can be very deceptive. Better can parade as better for me. One of the ways you know it's better is it's not about you. It's better for those around you is the real measure. Whether it's better for you or not, well, it will always be better for you, but that may not be your perception. So the way to measure it soberly is it better for the people in my life? Not, is it better for me? Because that's just what makes me feel better. So here's the point. Getting to those somethings doesn't usually feel better because it's a struggle. You're trying to elicit, allow, discover, open up a space for what's actually higher in you that you are currently not in touch with, currently not aware of. It's not in your operating system at this moment. So anything that involves changing the operating system feels uncomfortable. It's not a thing you would run to. It's counterintuitive. It requires your intelligence and your willingness the same way as they tell a kid, eat your vegetables because they're good for you, and the kid wants to eat dessert. So that's why you have to have some self-control and some recognition that what's better is worth struggling for, but cannot be measured by it feels better. It will feel better once achieved. Until then, it will feel like it isn't worth it because it's so hard. But this is what you have to do. There's no way around it. There's no way to avoid it. There's only postponement. And the more you postpone and the longer you postpone, all you're doing is saying yes to the suffering. Saying yes, the suffering can go on another day, another week, another month. Because when what's better is established and is basic to the operating systems, when the upgrade is in the system, you do end up feeling better or feeling different, and that difference feels better once you understand it, once it's clear to you what's going on. So none of this is a problem once you're pretty much there. It's a problem to get there because there's nothing motivating. The fact that it's a struggle and the fact that it doesn't feel good is not motivating. So it's your wisdom, it's your understanding and intelligence about these things that has to be the motivator. You do it because you know it's to your advantage and you know that it's required. You don't do it because your feelings tell you it's the right thing to do. Your feelings tell you it isn't worth it, or it's too hard, or I can't do it, or but somebody else better than me can do it, but I'm not going to succeed. You tell yourself some kind of story of why not, why it's okay to abandon it or avoid it. But that doesn't work. It'll keep coming back in a different guise. The challenge will keep revolving. So every time you feel challenged to change, challenged to be better, it'll be part of that whole thing. So remember, you've been trained, wrongly trained, brainwashed, conditioned to think that you have to change who you are. You don't. You have to change how you are, how you operate. From the individual to the universal, from the selfish to the selfless. Characterize it any way you want, but it's about what comes out of you, not who you are. who you are remains the same. In fact, the more you become who you actually are and let that be there in full acceptance, the easier it is to do what I'm talking about. The easier it is to change how you are and elevate it. It's not about perfecting yourself or proving yourself. It's about elevating yourself. The better that's in you is too hidden, too much in the distance, and you're trying to bring it forward. This is not the road to self-improvement. This is the road toward God. Because when you elevate yourself, you're elevating yourself for the purpose of getting closer to the divine, being more in the direction of truth. You're not elevating yourself to gain something. You're elevating yourself because that's the spiritual imperative. But you have to stop being confused by what you've been taught wrongly, that you're supposed to be someone else, a different version of you that's more perfect, more like someone else who you admire, rather than yourself with less impediments to what's already divine in you, already loving in you, already operating as the eternal and the infinite. That's what it is essentially. Whatever is the best in you, whatever is your particular sublime gift or gifts, whatever they are, it comes not from your worldly or human aspect. It comes from the eternal and the infinite in you. That's where you're pulling it from. That's what you're allowing to bubble up more. And you can't do that by continuing to focus exclusively or primarily on the material, the worldly, and that which is bound to represent self-concern and self-focus. The focus has to be on something that's more of the eternal, more of the infinite, more of the divine. That's part of what the guru is for, to keep refocusing you off of the nonsense, off of the trivial, and off of the temporary, and reorient you for the 1,000th time and the 10,000th time and the 10 millionth time to what matters. And if it isn't part of the eternal, it doesn't matter. And if it doesn't have the infinite aspect, it doesn't matter. Because at the very least it means it's a blip on the screen, temporary, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, is born and sooner or later dies, rusts, corrodes, falls apart, turns to dust, or drops dead, or evaporates. Why have so much attention to that which is guaranteed to evaporate and is evaporating in front of your eyes, but so slowly you don't notice it? So it's your wisdom that has to start seeing the evaporation, that has to start remembering that if you can't identify the eternal and the infinite in it, then it's worthless. It's not that you're seeing wrong. or not seeing clearly. It's that you have to know what to look for. So let me repeat it for emphasis, and then I'll let you talk. You don't change yourself. You don't become a different you. If necessary, you work on self-acceptance. But you do change how you are, what you bring to the table. And everyone knows in their heart, or if they think about it a little bit, what that is. That's of a higher level, of a more godly dimension. You're the representative. You represent the divine. You don't go to, well, this is what conventional people think. They go to church, or they go to the mosque, or they go to the temple to find the divine. But that's not how it actually works. How it actually works is you find it in yourself, and it's the biggest discovery you'll ever make. And you feel it more automatically and without effort when you're around the guru. But you have to remember that that's an indicator. That's only like going to the beach. It's just, yes, it'll be sunnier and warmer and nicer, but you have to do that on your own the rest of the time, so that you're not trying to get it from outside yourself. Everything comes from inside you. The guru outside has to be discovered inside. That's what discipleship is. The external guru operating internally. But you have to understand what's going on. You have to understand that you're trying to find a better way, not because you're not good enough or too flawed, but because it's already in you, and you don't get to God by not bringing out the best. The elevation matters. You elevate yourself not to make yourself more grand, but because it's doable. Because you don't have to create anything. You have to discover something inside yourself. Not around the corner, not somewhere in your house, not in other people, in you. The last place you believe you'll find it. That's what meditation is for. That's what all sadhana is for. That's what devotion is for. That's what your human life is for. Any other use is misuse, disuse, and wrong use. Which is simply a complete waste. And the universe abhors waste. It's a very practical universe and is geared toward action and usefulness. waste, and wastefulness is abhorrent to the universe itself, to the nature of reality. Nothing exists for no reason. So uselessness doesn't fit. If you understand that nothing exists for no reason, then it's very easy, seems to me, to understand that not using what's there to be used, not employing what can be employed, is an offense. Not an offense, like a sin. It's offensive. The universe dislikes it. Remember, existence has its own preferences and attitude. Cosmic forces, cosmic laws, divine law, the divine plan, and the nature of reality itself are not unbiased. There's certain things that are anathema, that don't fit right. And one of the biggest is uselessness, because nothing is purposeless. When we make something useless, we're going against the nature of things. We're going against the divine intention. So that's the argument, actually, now that I think about it, I hear myself say that. That's the argument for why you have to elevate yourself without thinking that it's self-improvement. You have to not do self-improvement, you have to do self-elevation. Because that's right use and natural, expected by existence and by life. And don't forget, life is only part of existence. Life and existence are not synonymous. Those words are not synonymous. There is existence without what we recognize as life or experience as life. Existence is bigger than life. Life is just one dimension. The unconscious is not in human beings. I'm not talking about in human beings. I'm talking about in existence. The unconscious is not part of the conscious. It's the other way around. Consciousness is just an aspect of the eternal unconscious, which doesn't have either an agenda or a view of itself. That's why it's unconscious. It's not conscious of itself as the unconscious. You're operating in the consciousness sphere, but the infinite and the eternal are rightly understood as part of the ocean of non-conscious, unconscious, only potentially conscious. Consciousness itself is not the base of reality. Unconsciousness is. that which is equally asleep and awake, that which is completely itself. That which is beyond the beyond, beyond. Okay, if I keep going, I'm going to say more esoteric things and confuse you more. I should have stopped 6 minutes ago. It's never too late to stop. Your turn.
Swamiji, Ananda Dev has a question.
Ananda Dev?
Yes. Go ahead, Ananda.
Beloved Master, in hesitating less and being more open and relating more and saying more yes to life, basically, I see how more and more how little I actually do relate and how little I do say yes. I notice also with people actually more hesitation than I thought there was, more stinginess, and I always have an explanation. That's also something I notice. It's always because of the other people, but I realize that it's me who's just not actually relating as I could. And when Shantidasa was in Brussels, she lovingly pointed out how I and actually the whole Deaf family has the habit to grunt a lot. It's more than a sigh. It's like when the phone goes or anything, it's always like there's always all of us have this reaction. And at first I thought it was funny, then I thought it was a bit annoying, but then I started to notice it more and more how I would continue to do that, and it's basically always a no, or I don't want to be bothered, or I notice it's a no, and it's good to see it. It's not comfortable, but it's good to know how much I still do hesitate. I thought like, it's not hesitating is going well, but it's better, but there's a lot of headway to be made. And I know it's good seeing that because you have mentioned it often, how our tendency is to say no. And I always thought like, well, that's not really an issue for me, but now I see it very much, how that's often great. I don't really have a question. I know seeing it, that's also something you always say. Seeing it is and becoming aware of it more and more. That's the first step.
That's 90%, if not 95.
It is already possible not to grunt with everything.
So when you notice it, say it in your head or even out loud what the response is, because the response is leave me alone. The meaning of the grunting is leave me alone. You said it. I'm just commenting that if you really want to become aware, then you allow yourself the words, not just the grunts. Yes, you understand that's what the grunt means, but is a whole different ballgame when you start saying it out loud. Phone rings and you go, leave me alone. Now you know consciously what the unconscious response was, or the semi-conscious response was, and that brings it much more onto the table. And you become aware of that decision, that choice, which is habitual. This is the way it is for all human beings. It's different in different cultures, but there's a form of it in all cultures. It's endemic to being human. There's cultures that teach people better to not have that as the automated response of choice every single time. But there's no culture that doesn't help people to the degree where that endemic response is not part of being human, because it's the automatic resistance to change. The phone rings means something has changed or is changing. Nobody was calling me a minute ago, something changed. There isn't a human being born who doesn't have a natural dislike of change. So some cultures handle that better, but no culture handles it good enough. So in one sense, it's beyond culture, it's cross-cultural. In another sense, there's a cultural effect. So see how that works. Actually say it out loud. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I see how it is learned or enforced, and seeing it in Jaya and Loka, I felt actually also quite responsible.
Well, you are.
Yeah, okay, for passing.
It's transmitted intergenerationally, but at this point, it's in the DNA. It's been around so long and it's so endemic that you could say that doesn't matter who the parents are, it's going to be the result. But yeah, you learn it most powerfully from the parents when you're very little. You're not really to blame, it just means you're a parent.
Okay. Leave me alone. Okay.
Well, but then you can see when you say leave me alone and you become used to it, you can start to have more room. It starts to widen and you have more room to decide different, because then you'll start to have an experience sooner or later. If you keep saying leave me alone, if you keep saying what it really is out loud so that you hear it, and out loud doesn't have to be out loud from your mouth, in your head. But if you can say it with your mouth, that's even better. But it's not always appropriate. So you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings needlessly or give them the wrong idea. You're just trying to make it more conscious what's unconscious or what's habitual. So then if you do that, you'll see at some point, it usually doesn't take very long, the space will widen. It'll give you space, and you'll see that there's room for a different choice. You'll see what your actual desire is, because your actual desire may be leave me alone in some cases, but in some cases your actual desire is certain to be absolutely don't leave me alone, absolutely come closer, absolutely come here, absolutely come as close as you can, or whatever is the right form to say it, and you'll become aware of that. So it's something you can try. Because the leave me alone or go away or I don't want to be bothered is so reflexive, so automatic, so much always the first response. We don't know what we really want, what our real response is. There's no room to identify it. It's closed off by the habit. Then you start seeing how perverse human beings are, that you're actually saying in some situations to some people, leave me alone, when you want nothing more than to be as together as possible. It's the exact opposite of what the response is. You'll see. Everybody yearns for deep, abiding, and close connection, and everyone rejects it. That's the dilemma.
Swamiji, we have questions from Shanti Dasa and Iman and Ishan. Go ahead, Shanti Dasa, your phone is unmuted.
Beloved Premodaya, I wanted to thank you and thank Prem Prasad for helping to change how I was in relation to I'm much more calmer and not as riddled with anxiety based on a lot of the work that I did with Prasad and with breathing. So he always has a good imitation of me where I'd be very amped up and he'd be like, everything I would just get like, it wasn't excitement. It was like very anxiousness. And I waited some time to report on that to see if it was taking root. And the breath, just breathing, was always his answer for everything. So the breathing has helped. I wanted to really give gratitude for him for that because I did work with him for like 8 months to a few years. And I always wanted to do more stuff. Like, well, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with my business? But he said basically, until you get a sleeping schedule down, there's nothing else to really talk about, the foundation. So I have had a sleeping schedule pretty routine for about 3 months. And when you're speaking about postponement, that's the word that's been coming up a lot for me. I was reporting to you that I'm boring myself with my living in my moral happiness, and now it's I am working with the saying we came up with, which was my future can include bounty, and sometimes it wavers where I can actually say will, and then it goes back to can. But the feeling is that it's every moment and every day, I just feel like I'm postponing, even if I'm moving a little forward. I could just feel like there's so much more I can do, and I'm in such a small box. That there's a lot of fear there, and it feels like irrational fear based on what you spoke about at discourse the other day. And working in therapy, you know, she will point out that at one time it was real fear of dying or death or all that, but it's just very annoying now. Because at my initiation, you said, you know, there's nothing more for you to figure out, just share your joy. So there's just with going deeper and deeper into my healing and seeing and realizing that I am an under-earner and all that stuff, and there's no real reason for it to be going on at this time. I could see how, everything can lead up to that, but it's just unnecessary.
There's no present day reason. There is a reason,
Yeah.
but it's not the present day.
Yeah. And there's just so much more that I could do for you and myself and the world, and I don't want the fear period, or the fear of envy of others or any of that to stand in my way any longer, because it's too, I just am in there like box is too small for me.
Well, life is short, so you can't wait for the fear to go away, because it may not.
Okay.
That's just a caveat. Some people have the idea that the task is to make the fear go away or remove the fear, and then I can go forward. And that may be possible, but it may not be possible. You never know. You can't spend your life dealing with the fear, because that's not the issue. So just understand, this is not nothing new, but just understand that at a certain point, you do what has to be done with or without the fear. I mean, the fact that fear is there is not the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do wait too long because they're trying to conquer the fear. If you spent 10 or 20 years trying to conquer the fear and you didn't conquer it, stop trying and just do it with the fear. Whatever has to be done, do it and be afraid. It's just a caution for, I'm not saying don't work on the fear or you'll never get rid of the fear. I'm saying you don't know if it's possible or not, and you can't have the idea that first I have to get rid of the fear. The furthest you can go is have the idea it would be great to get rid of the fear, and I'll see what I can do, but that has to have attached to it the corollary idea of if I can't get rid of the fear, I still have to move forward with the fear. The fear can't stop me, has to not stop me, or else I'll just be stopped. And death will come and I'll still be trying to get rid of fear. You'll run out of time. So don't elevate fear to a monstrous status, godlike status of that's the all-important thing, that's the big stopper. It's not.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to share with you, because it seems not appropriate, like you said, to this present day. So it's the more I speak about it to people I trust, the less power it has, because anytime I want to make a move in the right direction or to elevate myself, it's like I didn't even know it was there. There's such crippling fear of like they will kill me, and I'm like, but who's they? I just want to speak about it more, so it's like it's not, so that doesn't stop me. So I can move through the fear, like not try to let me work on a fear. I want to work on not working on it, just do it.
Well, and I'm not saying don't work on the fear. I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way. I'm saying that can't be the ongoing goal. If there's no results, then move on and live
Okay.
with the fear and see what happens down the road. But you said the most significant thing at the beginning, that focusing on breath has a powerful results for you. So you found a key. You have to use that much more. In fact, literally, for those people who breathing and breath focus works well for, it's the absolute antidote to fear. The best way to reduce, handle, or get rid of fear quickly and effectively is breathing. But you have to be a person who benefits from breath focus or breath work. And that's what you were saying, is you find it hugely beneficial. In other words, there are people, Vipassana's for them, and there are other people, Vipassana's not for them. Focusing on the breath isn't going to give them a lot. For the majority of people, Vipassana works well. But you're saying it works especially well for you. So you have to expand this and base more of your practices on the breath aspect, or at least any practice you do begin with some kind of breath practice, focusing on the breath or breathing a certain way. Prasad can advise you. I'm not an expert in this
Okay.
because I'm in the smaller category of Vipassana. Doesn't work for me. But I recognize and understand the meaning of it and the nature of it. So anyone who discovers that breath work works excellently for them has found a major key and needs to find more ways to use it. And since you went on to say that fear is an issue, you already have the key for dealing with fear. If you're very responsive to breath work, this will eliminate much of the fear. If you find the way to use it that way. So this will take some experimenting, some exploring, but it can have phenomenal results. Are you in Morocco still?
No.
Atlanta?
No.
Iceland?
No.
Peru?
No.
All right, don't tell me. Where are you?
Florida.
Okay. Well, my condolences. Okay.
Imani, could you please go to the cushion?
Always get so anxious when I come up here, but what I wanted to, I guess, understand this experience I'm having, which is almost,
You gotta speak up.
I haven't been able to really put it into words. Best I can say, it's almost like I'm in two different worlds at the same time. But also I could say there's a presence here. Everything else is happening normal. As far as my thoughts and feelings and...
So what's different? How's this different than what you've been saying for a long time?
It's disorienting.
So more disorientation. Because it's not new what you're saying. You've been describing this for quite a while. Right?
Well, I think the
Are you aware of that?
Yeah, it's more, I guess it's the intensity maybe, or...
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't, as far as my physical, it didn't feel good. And then I was talking to a friend, and as I was talking, I said, I feel like it's on the verge of bliss, but it was feeling awful. I was very disoriented, physical pain, and just sitting and being with it, it opened into bliss. And laughter. And then it, maybe, I don't know, half an hour or something, and then afterwards it was like nothing had happened.
Mm-hmm. So what's the problem?
Well, it's not a problem.
Well, you were describing it in
In a sense,
a tone like it's a problem.
in a sense, because I am in this place of kind of disoriented. It's a feeling of, on one side it's peaceful and I can focus on that, and then the other side is this feeling of really, I'm not normal. It feels like, but then there's really, I'm clear, present here, like right now, and there's the other.
So is this about fear? Is this about overwhelm? Is this about intensity? Is this, give me the one word that it's about. What? Because there is something going on that you're worried about or complaining about. What's the essence of that in one or two words?
I guess there's worry in there.
Yeah. So let's say fear.
Fear.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
So how can there not be fear? If there's a lot of disorientation, which is often a sign of something bad and often a sign of something good, and in this case it's a sign of something good. If there's a lot of disorientation, but it ends up breaking out into bliss, does that sound like a bad case scenario is going on?
No.
Yeah, so you have to be a little bit using your intelligence that, okay, this can't be bad. If it leads to bliss, it can't be bad. But some people have a phobic reaction to bliss and don't like the intense, because real bliss is intense, and it's the process of how things move toward bliss can be very intense. Some people don't like that intensity. Some people have a fear reaction, and that's what you're describing. So it's fine to be afraid. The trick is to not let the fear and the nature of the intensity and the unpleasantness of the disorientation, to not let any of that lead you to rejecting the bliss or ratcheting down the bliss. Because the bliss itself can even be experienced as painful or unpleasant because it's so intense. So the recommendation I'm giving you is accept the bliss, let the bliss happen all the way, even if it feels like something painful or something's exploding or something is too intense. Try to allow it anyway, but the fear is probably unavoidable. So don't let your mind make too much of the fear. Just understand that we naturally fear this kind of process because we're not in control of it, and it's something about the unknown, right? So try to welcome the fear as an essential part of how this works.
I can say even right now, as you're saying, I see how I'm trying to control and kind of...
Well, that's natural. You're trying to not be overwhelmed by it, but try to allow the overwhelm, because the overwhelm is in the service of bliss, trying to take you on a bigger wave to a bigger bliss. This is surfing. It is. And surfing is a knack, and this is very difficult to learn, this knack of surfing this kind of interstate intense process that moves toward bliss. It's like you have to find a way to surf it and keep your balance, which of course is hard because disorientation is part and parcel of how this process feels. But we have to try hard not to reject bliss. If bliss is trying to break out in us, most of us try to reject it in some form. It takes effort to counteract that. If the bliss gets you, if the bliss explodes in you and takes over, you won't be sorry. But the trick is to not let the fear make you shut things down. This is tricky stuff, but if you see it as surfing, it's only tricky when you don't realize it's surfing. Once you realize it's like surfing, so you have to kind of find your balance. And of course, a big wave, and of course there'll be a rise of fear and a nausea and a disorientation. All of that's part of the experience. You can't surf the big wave and not have these kind of feelings, disorientation, kind of feeling sick, kind of feeling, whoa, a roller coaster, you know, the downswing part.
Well, what helped is holding your picture and just being with you in that, because it was very overwhelming. It felt.
Yes, but it's overwhelming toward bliss. That's what you have to keep reminding yourself. This is a knack you have to learn. If bliss is trying to break out in you, you really have to be reminding yourself of that. You've confirmed it because you said it became bliss. But a bigger bliss, a more permanent bliss, is trying to establish itself, break out and stay, not go back underground. So it's to your advantage to cooperate with it, but this is very difficult. We're not conditioned for bliss. Society teaches us the ways of unlove and the ways of non-bliss. So that's why this is painful and difficult when it happens for most of us. If we're lucky enough for this to happen, it's usually no fun. But this is a good process, but has to be understood. So keep reminding yourself, bliss is trying to come to me, or come up in me, come out in me. How can that be bad? That doesn't mean there won't be fear. That doesn't mean it doesn't feel in ways painful or unpleasant. But you have to remind yourself what it is. Because it can be painful and unpleasant, you have to remind yourself that this is about bliss. Bliss is an aspect of the divine. It's
I'm
better.
more comfortable with the peace.
You can have what you're comfortable with, or you can have what's supreme. You know, you can have a Ford Focus. Or you can have a Bentley. Bliss is the Bentley, by the way. You know. A nice feeling of peace is great, but that's the Ford Focus compared to bliss. If you're going to put them up against each other, peace versus bliss, choose bliss. Because bliss has peace embedded in it already. But peace does not necessarily generate or lead to bliss. It can, but if bliss is happening, go with that. You know, I can offer you the $10 lottery ticket or the $100,000 lottery ticket, both winning tickets. Pick the 100,000. That's bliss. Peace is the $10 ticket. I'm all for peace. It's the $10 ticket compared to bliss, which is the $100,000 ticket. Bliss is always the highest sign. My personal biggest regrets in my entire decades of spiritual life are those moments where I couldn't do what I'm telling you, where I couldn't accept the bliss, where it was so intense and so painful, I shut it down. Those are the only moments I can think of that I would want to do over. Those were. I understand the mistake of it. That's why I'm cautioning you. So it could get more difficult. It could get more intense to where you feel the cellular level of it. But if you bear it and you accept it and you don't shut it down, the potential is indescribable. I don't live in permanent bliss, but I know that it's possible because of what I have experienced. So the stakes are big here if you learn to surf. If it doesn't happen, you haven't lost anything. I haven't lost anything by not doing well with those experiences. But what I could have gained is incalculable. I don't feel like I lost anything because it's not like I had it, I lost it. But something was trying to happen and I didn't understand it and I ran, and I'm encouraging always people to not run when these moments or processes are evident. It's almost impossible not to be terrified because they're so intense, they're so overwhelming, they're so not like anything else we experience ordinarily. It feels crushing, or like you're drowning, or like you're being subsumed, or whatever the experience is for the individual. But to the degree that it can be tolerated and borne and accepted, the potential outcome is incalculable. I mean, imagine a life where the rest of your born days you live in ecstatic bliss every moment. We'll see where it goes.
Ishan, could you go to the question, please?
I feel like I've changed a lot in the last few weeks, month. I think some things have become very clear, especially how it's hard for me to admit that I'm wrong. It's hard for me to feel embarrassed about making mistakes. And it's hard for me to let go of the mental approach of like trying to figure out rules of like how to avoid.
Talk slower.
Okay. It's hard for me to get out of the mental approach of trying to figure out rules of like how to make things better, rather than just.
Okay, so that's easy. We can deal with that really easy. Can you accept there are no rules?
Yes.
So
I'm getting there. Just stop.
There are no rules. No, all the way. Just do it all the way instantly. It's really true. I'm not asking you to convince yourself. I'm asking you to, can you accept the truth that there are no rules in existence? Nobody's holding a gun to anybody's head, cosmically or otherwise, saying you must do this way. Nobody's telling a blade of grass how to grow. It does it on its own. There aren't any rules. That doesn't mean nothing is happening, but it does mean that rules, the idea of rules is a human mental, artificial construction. It's just a concept. Bears don't have any concept of rules. Beavers don't have any concept of rules. Trees don't have any concept of rules. That's just us. And that's a mental need for order and justification. But there actually are no rules. The fact that people make rules, live by rules, enforce rules, kill and be killed for rules doesn't mean there's such a thing as rules. Existentially, it doesn't exist. There's the way things work. There's what happens and there's what is. But none of that suggests any set of rules. There are certainly universal laws in play, but that's not the same as what the mind means when it says rules. Rules are man-made and imaginary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I confused those two in my mind. My mind confused them.
So don't confuse the natural order of things or the organic way of things with some conceptual set of rules. You must, you should, you will. Do number one, then do number two, then do number three, or never walk on the white line, or
Mm-hmm.
There are no rules. People make them up. They may have a very important utilitarian aspect. There are traffic rules so that everybody doesn't crash into everybody else. But that still doesn't mean that there's any reality. It's just a social contract. So just see it all the way that there are no rules existentially, meaning in existence. They don't actually exist. They're ideas.
Okay.
To exist, it has to be universally so. So it's easy from that standpoint to see that no rules exist, because no rules are universally so. The traffic rules in every country are different because they're man-made, they're made up.
Mm-hmm. And every situation is different.
Every situation is different and has its own organic, natural set of contingencies and requirements. Requirements aren't rules. Rules means do it this way or else. Usually some kind of punishment, minor or major. That's all man-made. It's only human beings that want to punish.
Mm-hmm.
That's just about controlling people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rules seem real because they're everywhere. Some are very beneficial. Like I said, they're utilitarian, they're practical. But that doesn't mean they're actual, that they have any existential actuality. So the necessities of life and the requirements of existence are not rules. They're the way things work.
Okay.
Your circulatory system works the way it works. Your heart pumps blood and it goes through the veins and the arteries and all around and in and out, and, that whole conveyor system, belt system. That's the way it works. It's not a set of rules. Now the left ventricle will pump, rule number 1. Rule number 2, now the right ventricle. Now, that's not a set of rules. That's what you're saying you're confusing. You're confusing rules with the requirements of how things work or the contingencies of how things work.
Mm-hmm.
Or how whatever it is works.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do that. Understand. Accept 100% that there's no such thing as rules. That's a social convenience.
Okay.
The same as there's no countries. Countries is artificial borders on a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow they could change the borders of France and Germany and make it one country and it'd be German France. That's all artificial. It's made up. If you walk along the border, there's no line there. The same. That's a rule too. This is France, this is Germany. That's a set of rules. Social convention, social contract. But there's no France, there's no Germany. Earth is just Earth.
Okay. Yeah, I think what I can see now is that there's a lack of trust that there's another way. I can trust this intelligence or I can just do what's called for, I guess maybe that's another rule.
You can relax.
I can relax.
The opposite of rules is relaxing.
Okay.
Thinking there are rules is wanting to do it right or fear of making a mistake or thinking that you're doing it wrong. So you develop too much desire for rules, belief in rules, too much the idea that there's something real in rules. And if I can find the rule book, I'll know what to do. This is a very common idea. Everybody else has the owner's manual except me. The idea is other people know what they're doing and you don't. That's what's behind this, right? So they don't know any better than you.
I think that was my idea of maturing, was figure out the better rules, you know. So it has been very helpful for me to talk to other people, check in with them about, because I don't know what to do sometimes, and it's been so wonderful that other people have been willing to share with me. And
so say the following: I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
So when you're in a situation or moment or find yourself in the position of not knowing what to do, guess what my advice is?
Ask for help.
No. That's number 2. What's number 1?
Check in with myself.
No, say, I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Don't ask for help, because first you have to tell the person or people, hey, I don't know what to do here.
Okay.
And then you usually don't even need to ask for help. It'll be taken that way. But that'll be better for you. It'll be better for you to say out loud, I don't know what to do. That'll be a better message for your whole self to hear than to say, oh, can you help me? Because you're not admitting that you don't know what to do. Can you help me doesn't assume that you're in a position of I don't know what to do. There's many reasons why one might ask for help. But with everything you're describing, you're way better off if you start from I don't know what to do. So you have to memorize that phrase and start using it in daily life. You have to trot it out as often as you can. You will never be in trouble by saying I don't know what to do. There's something in human beings that has a natural sympathy for that rather than, why, you fool? Out with you. You don't know what to do. Get out of my sight. How dare you not? Everybody knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Say it out loud.
I don't know what to do.
Look at humans. I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
So use it in those moments where it's true. Say it because it'll make a big difference in those moments, because you're saying, and you probably mean, or if you think about it, you'll probably see that it occurs every day, that there's at least some moment, some situation where your inner response is, I don't know what to do. Start saying it out loud. It'll have magical results.
Okay.
On a variety of levels. I don't know what to do. It's a good thing to say. You're thinking it's a bad thing. That is admitting weakness or stupidity or confusion. It's something you shouldn't admit. I'm telling you, it's something you should run to admit. Take out ads. I don't know what to do, Ishan.
Yeah, I can see I had this idea that maturity meant I knew what to do. I'm going to know what to do all the time. That's like the opposite of maturity, maybe.
That's not maturity. That's fascism.
Mm-hmm. Well, where'd I get that crazy?
The only people who really always think they know what to do have a fascistic mind. Donald Trump always knows what to do, even when he doesn't have a clue. His mind tells him, beat somebody up. There's no shame in not knowing what to do. There's no shame in admitting it. And you'll get much more by saying it out loud.
Okay.
That's the cure. Say it out loud.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
I also wanted to share something.
Don't wait for big moments of being lost, right? Be quick to say, I don't know what to do, or I don't understand this at all, but the best wording for you is, I don't know what to do, because that was your natural wording.
Okay.
So look for excuses to say it, even tiny little things. Oh, I don't know what to do.
Okay.
You can say it out loud to yourself when you're alone and you feel that, but it's very excellent to say it to other people in those moments where it's true. The danger is you'll wait for when it's a big deal, when, oh, it's a really big, important thing and I don't know what to do. Don't wait for that. Any opportunity. Small, medium, big, doesn't matter.
Okay. It felt right when I said it.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to quickly share that when my girlfriend had started having spiritual awakening experiences, and I was sharing with her my experiences with you and how much you've helped me, it really became evident how grateful I was and how much I love you. And I didn't really see it clearly until that happened. So I just wanted to say thank you again. I love you.
You're welcome.
You've given me so much. I haven't done anything for you.
Look at people. Hide your teeth. So look that way so that you're not hiding your vulnerability. That's another conditioned response. Okay, good. How many more? Because we're out of time. Perfect. Oh, my voice held out. Well, no one knows what to do. The fantasy is that everyone else knows what to do except me. The reality is everybody's the same and nobody knows what to do. Some people are more decisive, more authoritative. They step forward and say, let's do this, or I think this is the right way, but that doesn't mean they know what to do any better than anyone else. There's nothing wrong with leaders. There's nothing wrong with people who take the initiative. There's nothing wrong with people who are clueless. It looks like there's a difference, but there's not. Everybody's in the same position. Everybody lives in the unknown. But we're conditioned to think we should know what we are doing, and we're conditioned to think we do know what we're doing. But the unknown doesn't include that, and where you really live is in the unknown. The infinite, the eternal, the divine are the unknown. Remember, the known is only a tiny corner of the conscious, and the conscious is only a tiny corner of the universal unconscious, which is endless, which is the infinite and the eternal itself. So to talk about I should know is almost beyond ludicrous. But that's what you've been taught societally. That's what you've been implanted with, that you're supposed to know. So you have to give yourself on a daily basis until it's clear to you the antidote, which is not only do I not know, and not only can I admit to myself I don't know, but I can accept and start to see that neither does anyone else. And this whole idea of anyone knows is just a childish need for a mommy and daddy. But when you're an adult, you don't need a mommy and daddy anymore, cosmic or otherwise. So no one knows, and you are not here to try to know. You are on a voyage of exploration of the unknown. Nothing hinders that more than to pretend to yourself that you know. So that societal conditioning has to be gotten rid of. That's what it is. You would never claim to know anything if you weren't conditioned by society from the moment you're born to have that idea. It's an implanted idea. I know something. You don't control one breath. You don't control one hair on your head. You don't control one iota of anything. The unknown is all there is. So the more you are consciously saying, I don't know, the more you'll feel the actuality and the truth of the fact that you don't need to know. You've been sold a bill of goods that you need to, part of that conditioning is that you need to know, that it's important to know. So you collect knowings and carry them around in a sack that gets bigger and bigger, and it's just dead weight. The whole spiritual road is emptying that sack, laying down all burdens, which mostly consist of knowings, ideas, concepts, beliefs, memories, and false notions. You're not really empty until you've emptied out that sack, until you don't believe your beliefs, you don't know your knowings, and you accept reality on reality's terms. And reality has its own terms, and one of its terms is you will not know anything. But that does not mean you will not be something. The fear is if I don't know something, it's instilled, it's part of the conditioning. The fear is if I don't know something, it's like annihilation. I can't be anything. But being precedes everything. So you don't need to know anything to be. The day you were born, you didn't know anything and it wasn't a problem. The spiritual path is to go all the way back to that. Back to the beginning, back to the original state you were born in, naturally, of fully present, with no delusion of knowing anything, and completely open and capable of participating all the way in everything, with no mediation. knowing something is mediation. It's a buffer. No buffer. When you don't know, then nothing has any limits. And when you don't need to know, then everything is welcome. Okay.